Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. Welcome to you if you're in YouTube land. My name's Max Peterson. I'm the CEO of Smith & Sons Remodeling Experts Canada. And I'm just, I wanted to put out a quick, it's Friday here, and just had a bit of a thought. And, I'm chatting to general contractors all the time, always at different levels, guys from different backgrounds and different skill sets. But, I often think that, how is it that we sort of maintain our momentum in our business, as independent general contractors? And so, something that come to mind, I often do a lot of travel, well, up until sort of recent events. I used to travel back from Canada to Australia for business 2 or 3 times a year. So I really love getting in airplanes. I don't like sitting in airports, but I don't mind being on airplanes. One of the things that fascinates me, is just how they get that enormous aircraft off the ground. And so the flip side, and I know this might be a little bit polar opposite, but, I've watched a lot of these air crash investigations and things like that, because it really does intrigue me as to why things go wrong. And as I would watch, air crash investigation, it's amazing how that after you watch 20 or 30 episodes of this show, there's some fairly standard things that go wrong. And more often than not, it's really down to human error. It's funny how, obviously they can automate and sort of create so many smart systems within these aircraft, but ultimately the human still has, a lot of the final say. And so, one thing that stood out to me there one day as I was watching one of these episodes was a pilot needs 3 things. He needs altitude, airspeed, and a very good idea. And I thought to myself, as I watch these programs and understand that even a trained pilot, and I've got a cousin who's an air traffic controller in Brisbane. I've got a buddy here in the Okanagan who's actually a pilot for WestJet. And, after spending some time just conversating around, what they do for a living and what they see and maybe what the public doesn't see, but they do, it's interesting that it is, there is definitely the human plays a big role in some of these accidents or near misses even. And so, I love to watch these programs because they have a lot of systemized approach. When they get in there, they do a pre takeoff check. And of course, even when they're shutting down, they're running off checklists. And so as a builder coming from, running through an apprenticeship, I didn't even hear the word checklist till probably I got into my own business. And I think, we as general contractors, we do not understand. And, at the end of the day, we don't know what we don't know. So unless you've got a coach or a mentor who can at least pave some of the way in front of you and demonstrate and show you what maybe you're not doing or you don't know of in the way of systemizing, you're never really going to get off the ground. And, I think if you are, if you're in the business and you're doing $1 million a year, I'm sure there's guys and gals right now that go, geez, I wish my general contracting company was doing $1 million in revenue. But I'm telling you, it's not necessarily how much, revenue you do. It's really gross profit is super important. That's what we got to focus on. So your markup percentages have got to be calculated in accordance with what it takes to run your business, but you still got to make sure that your net profit is somewhere between 12 and 15%. 10%, okay. If you're into single digits as net profit, you're basically going out the back door, you're going broke. So you need to be up over 10%, probably closer to 12 to 15. And it's amazing. So when I look at the similarities between what a pilot needs, and he kind of needs altitude, airspeed, and a very good idea in the event that something goes wrong. So if the pilot notices there's something up, his way of handling things will be determined by the amount of altitude that he has under him, the amount of airspeed that he has, and what he's going to do is going to be really subject to those couple of criteria. So you as a builder or a general contractor running a building company, you've got to look at your situation and go, where are the biggest deficits? Do I have good airspeed? Do I have good altitude? If you've got good airspeed and good altitude, then you're probably going to be able to, you've got more time to make decisions that are going to affect your business positively. If you are like, what was that pilot's name who landed that plane in the Hudson River? If you're like that guy, very little airspeed, and because he was already on the climb, he was only on the climb, and of course he didn't have much altitude. So there's your two. If you're at 30,000 feet or 40,000 feet and you're doing 900 kilometers an hour ground speed, you've got good altitude and good airspeed. Now you've just got to come up with that good idea in the event that something's gone wrong. But you as a general contractor, what we need to do is we need to take a look at what it is that we're doing that maybe got us there, and question the fact that is it going to be able to carry us to actually the destination that which we want to land. So if you get halfway across the Pacific Ocean on your way to Brisbane from Vancouver, then if you're only halfway, probably there's not enough altitude and airspeed to take you there if your engine's cut out, if both engines fail. And so, I think a lot of the time as general contractors, we have got to assess our situation fairly honestly, because if we do not, look, I don't think there's anything majorly tragic. I mean, if you run out of cash and you run out of bank and you go broke, well, that's going to mess your life up for a little while. But it's certainly, it's certainly not going to, it's not going to take your life like a crashing an airplane would. But I think, what happens is, and we get this also not so much in sort of from pilots, but certainly whenever you go on a long drive, and I'm sure you've done lots of driving, and you understand that fatigue is a killer. And I think for general contractors, we get so fatigued running our business year in, year out, and really not achieving the goals that we would like to. And then we become disillusioned. Then we get pissed off at the industry. Then we start getting chewing out our subcontractors. We start losing staff because we're not able to sell jobs. We start to hate clients. Fatigue is the killer. And I think further to that, disillusionment with how you're doing business certainly does really affect us emotionally. And of course, the way we start thinking will determine how we feel, and how we feel really affects our activities and our actions. And so, I think we got to go back at some point. You have to ask yourself the question, is what I'm doing going to get me there? Or is what I've been doing for the last 5 or 10 years? And do I now need to sort of seriously look inwards and go, what do I need to change? Now, I know from, someone that's been around the industry for 32 years, it's just not on the shelf. You just can't go out and buy that. And so, I congratulate you if you've been listening to the, podcasts. I congratulate you if this is your first podcast for Business for Builders that you're listening to. But you certainly need to start asking yourself the question, if you're not content, if you're just super happy with the way your business is going, then high five, that's a great thing. It's a good thing but I'm telling you, don't get comfortable or, don't be complacent, because things in the industry change. And so you really need to be always, if you're not busy growing, you're busy dying. And so you need to keep that momentum up. You need to keep moving. You need to be redefining, reinventing, and, creating some more business within your business. I think that's a healthy thing to do because you will get taken out by your competition. I think I talked recently on how I go about trying to put myself out of business on a daily basis. What is the competition going to do to put me out of business? What can they see that I can't see? Where am I losing my competitive advantage? And so, I think what we've got to do is, if we get to that point, and, I don't know what time of the year that is, maybe the end of the year, maybe as we roll towards, we're rolling into fall and then, of course, into winter. Maybe that's your time where you take stock, you sit back and you ask yourself those hard questions about, your business and where you're going. But really, I think at the end of the day, you've got to maintain some level of maintain some level of commitment, because creative follows commitment. So in other words, if you say, well, I want to have a business that does $1 million a year, that generates, after all expenses, $120,000 or $150,000 in net profit, then what happens is that commitment that you make towards that goal, you start to get creative. You start to hear things. Maybe you start doing some research. Maybe you start trying to evaluate what you're doing. Maybe you've got staff in your business that have got to go because they're toxic. Or maybe you've got to change your method of recruitment, the way you recruit, the questions that you ask, money, maybe even the money that you pay. Maybe you've got to increase that. And so this is why, it's so difficult for general contractors, not because the information's not out there, but everybody's business is different. So being able to formulate a custom approach to the way you do it, you're probably not, or the way you need to do it, you're not going to go and just walk into a store and pick that off the shelf. And so, I know that with a lot of my guys that I'm dealing with and working with, they're all at different levels. Some are very bullish, some are a lot more shy. Some are less aggressive, some are more aggressive, some are more optimistic than others. So it's very much every time I'm talking to the team of general contractors that we have in the Smith & Sons group, I've got to be very aware as to who I'm chatting with. And so, I think with your business, it's really, it talks about the pain. If the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same, then you need to consider and contemplate figuring that out. And look, if you've done it the same way for 5 years, wake up and smell the coffee. It's not working. You got to change something. So, and until I could have a one-on-one conversation with you, I'd be speculating all day long. I could tell you everything that we're doing, and I still may not even hit the mark. But I think if you're a general contractor like me who did an apprenticeship as a carpenter and then got a builder's credential, let's say, and went out and got a builder's license, and now you're building new homes as well as doing renos, we are really clutching at straws as we move forward. So, you might be somebody that's an excellent builder. You can, the way you build a home, the product that you deliver at the end of the day is awesome. You may even go back one step further. You may even enjoy the sales process, talking with clients, going through all of the selections, putting together, the project. But that you fail in a couple of areas like, business management, business development, maybe your marketing, you're relying too much on word of mouth and you're not actually building a brand and you're not building a reputation digitally. And that it's not sustainable. Because this is the thing, what we do at Smith & Sons for our general contractors is we've got, 6 or 8 or 10 client testimonials that, we got to go next week down to Nanaimo and shoot 2 more video testimonials on behalf of our general contractor down there. And it's those types of videos, those types of testimonials from clients that do a lot of the heavy lifting for our GCs. But it's, if I left that up to each of my general contractors to do that, matter of fact, we've got one penciled in for Edmonton as well. If we left that up to the general contractors, it would never get done. And so I don't expect them to do stuff. So that's some of the advantage. What our guys have done is they've taken stock of what they've been doing for the last 5 or 10, 15 years, whatever the case may be. And they've realized that if I keep doing the same thing, I'm only going to get the same result. And so what they've had to do is they've really had to sort of consider, do they want to go around the mountain again, stay on the hamster wheel and get to the end of next year, 2022, and really not have progressed any further? And I'm telling you, if you're doing $1 million a year and you're only marking up by 15%, by the time you take your wages out, there's not a lot left for you. And that's sad, because that means unless you change something, that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. So, you might have some altitude, you might have some time in the game, and you might have a fairly good reputation, but something inside of you saying, I've just got to get the other part of my business sorted and organized, because if I don't, I'm going to hit a ceiling. I'm doing the same revenue every year. I'm not getting off the tarmac. I'm not getting altitude. And, I say this to a lot of the guys that I chat with, the more you learn, the more you earn. Your attitude determines your altitude. And so, it's super important that those sorts of mental fundamentals, understanding mentally where you're at and where your deficiencies are. And I talked to a lot of the guys about doing gap analysis and really looking for the deficiencies in their systems, doing a performance review. Are they running a high performance business across the board, or are they, they're a high performance builder as far as construction is related, but they're very low performance in their business in the office. And so I think it's all about, balancing the business. There's no point in it's almost like your general contractor is a vehicle, but your 4 wheels, they've all got to be balanced. You can't, have no air in one tire if that's your office management side, and then the other 3 have got good air in them, because the car is not going to handle, it's not going to make speed, it's not going to produce the result that you want. And so, I think that's really the point, of today's podcast is, taking stock, having a listen, to what you're saying to yourself, what are the biggest frustrations, and really trying to figure out what your next move is. And so, I know that, talking to me about a franchise in the general contracting world is certainly unorthodox. It's not as common in the building game as maybe what it is in the hospitality. But I'm telling you, with what we do when we join forces. I'm telling you, everything that we do is what general contractors don't do. We have a systemized approach to sales. We have business development systems within each of the general contractors as it relates to estimating, quoting, project management, contract administration, change orders. All of these boxes are ticked to give you the ability to leverage. Tools give you leverage. If you were to cut everything with a handsaw, it would take you forever to cut studs for a new home. But you do it with a skill saw, or you do it with a chop saw. All of a sudden, the tools give you leverage, because what they do is they create speed. And what we want is, if you're going to go and grow a business and you want to scale up a business, you're going to need more inquiry, an expeditious way and a scientific way of handling those new inquiries. You're going to need to be able to have tools to enable you to project manage maybe a half a dozen projects or more. And then you're going to have the ability to be able to liaise with more vendors, more suppliers, more subcontractors. So to be able to do $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 million a year, you got to be able to then recruit good talent as well. So don't get me started on culture and the importance and the influence that has on your bottom line as well. And so you can see that as I'm just waffling on a little bit, you can just see that it really is for one person, one guy, one gal, to be able to sort of get all of that understanding, especially if this is all new to you, then you won't know where to start. Smith & Sons has been around this game for 13 years. We've got close to 100 general contractors who have joined forces with Smith & Sons. We are not experimenting on the Canadians or the North Americans. This is a very scientific approach to construction, and it is exactly what you need to complement your existing construction expertise. If you've got any questions, email me, max@businessforbuilders.ca. You can leave a comment below and we will promptly respond to that. You can send me a text at 250-241-8866. I'd encourage you to subscribe. We put one of these out every week, and we just love to help the general contracting community. Go and build a kick-ass business. I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.